Well, excellent. I think that's more than enough time now for everybody to join. So please, I'd like to say a very warm welcome to you all. My name is Scott Murphy. I'm the Acting Assistant Head of Secondary for Wellbeing. So many thanks for making the time this evening to learn about the world-class care that we provide our school community. As I mentioned a little earlier, can I please ask that all microphones do stay muted? Please, and I encourage you to post any questions in the chat where our moderators will collate the answers and they will try to answer them as best they can throughout the presentation. This session will be recorded, and will be available to watch through Connect. Our objective as a school is to provide exceptional opportunities under the values of opportunity, respect and achievement, whilst keeping our kids happy, healthy, safe and engaged. We're exceptionally resourced as a school and we're continually working proactively to further understand the needs of our students and their general wellbeing. AIS is committed to maintaining the highest standards of care, safety and wellbeing for all children. It includes the security of our educational environment, the pastoral care and social emotional wellbeing of our students. This parent evening details our level of care to our children and the young adults within our community. We're incredibly fortunate at AIS to have such passionate and dedicated educators with vast backgrounds and experience, over 300 years of experience amongst the team that you can see on your screen now. So over the past 3 years, a conscious decision was made to further resource and invest in the wellbeing of our school community. The term academic wellbeing is commonly used within AIS, where wellbeing and academics are not seen as separate elements for a child's development, but they go hand in hand with each other. Ultimately, our goal is to support our students to achieve optimal mental health through social emotional wellbeing with a focus on emotional intelligence, especially self-awareness, self-regulation and empathy. Our wellbeing team is led by a highly qualified and experienced group of educators and involves a multifaceted system of support and guidance provided by heads of year, the senior leadership team, the international students coordinator, our head of boarding, our head of inclusion, our wellbeing coordinators, guidance counsellors, our positive education coordinator, our community service coordinator, our learning enrichment team, and our healthcare unit. That's quite a mouthful really when you think about the amount of care that we're giving our kids. So this is the dynamic team that keeps our children feeling happy, healthy, safe and engaged. I hope tonight gives you a greater insight into the amazing work and care provided to our students by an amazing team. So thank you. Please ensure that you ask any questions that you have along the way, and it gives me great pleasure now to introduce our wellbeing coordinators in Duncan, Rose and Miss Bernadette Ward. Oh, sorry, before I continue, I had a nice little icebreaker ready to go. All right, so culture of care and wellbeing, they do go hand in hand. So what I'm going to start with now, I'd love to see everybody's faces, but it's a little bit difficult at the moment. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to give you an understanding of what safeguarding and our culture of care is. So when I think these are common misconceptions with safeguarding. So please, I ask you to stop, and if you're sitting with somebody else, to have that conversation. And between you, I'll give you a few moments of pause to reflect on my statements that I have on the screen. So essentially, to provide our students with an environment where they feel safe, happy, healthy, and can be at their best. That's what we want at AIS within our community. So the statements I have: safeguarding means protecting children from abuse, including sexual abuse. Is that all safeguarding is? That's my question and my common misconception. Unfortunately, safeguarding means no harm to children, so it takes into consideration all types of abuse. Child abuse does not happen in my neighbourhood. Again, a common misconception: abuse can happen anywhere. Most abuse is perpetrated by a stranger. No, most abuse is carried out by someone we know and commonly within families, sadly. However, anyone can be an abuser, including carers, professionals, neighbours or members of the general public. Physical abuse is the most common form of abuse. It's not the most common. Another common misconception, it's emotional abuse. And a survey conducted last year in the UK with all abuse cases was 54% was the most common type of abuse, followed closely, and what we see a lot of within our region is neglect coming in second. And that's also with Australian statistics as well. Lastly, something that we've all been grown very familiar with, whether we like it or not, over the last year is COVID-19 and the way that we're going about operating, hence tonight with our online webinar. So COVID has enabled children to be safer as they are at home with family. A really, really large misconception here, and something that we're probably going to be finding more and more about over the coming years as the fallout continues. Unfortunately, that kids are not safer at home. The impact of COVID-19 on vulnerable children and families is profound. There has been a decline in vulnerable young people's mental health, almost 3 times the national average in the UK over the last year. In saying that, we dig a little bit deeper into our statistics on this. Sadly, a lot of those kids who are being seen by mental health practitioners and counsellors within the government organisation of the UK, 1 million children have dropped off the radar. We don't know where they are and who's supporting them. So the impact on COVID-19 is immense. It means our work here, it's only because it's in the UK or it's Australia, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen here either. We need to make sure that we are being proactive in the steps we're doing to make sure our culture of care is world class. And hence, the team that I introduced you to a little bit before are working around the clock to ensure that we are being proactive in supporting our kids. Okay, so now it is with much pleasure that I introduce our wellbeing coordinators, Mr. Duncan Rose and Miss Bernadette Ward.
Good evening, everyone. It's really lovely to be here and have you joining us. I'm Bernadette Ward. I look after the years 6 to 8 year levels.
And I'm Duncan Rose, and I look after the years 9 to 12. And we are the wellbeing coordinators, and our aim is to work with the Hoys to provide an environment of care at AIS. Our main aim being to provide our students with an environment where they feel safe, happy, healthy, and where they can be at their best. The wellbeing coordinators work with a large team of people throughout the school, and that network of people support wellbeing. Some of these roles are dedicated to wellbeing, but others have wellbeing built into their job. And we think that wellbeing is part of everyone's concern. So if you have a look at our little diagram here, you'll see that we work with people such as the heads of year, subject teachers, heads of department, counsellors, heads and assistant heads of secondary school, wellbeing coordinators, nurses, stride teachers and CCA and support staff. And together we operate as a network that allow us to support students to ensure their safety and well-being throughout their school time. We work sometimes with external support agencies as well, and these are to provide the maximum amount of care for our students. With that, we look to the idea that student well-being underpins every aspect of a student's schooling, from their ability to learn in class to their ability to build positive relationships. And for this reason, we have an extensive network of staff who work together to support our students in all aspects of their school life. I'm going to pass you now to Bernadette, and she's going to talk about the processes for well-being.
There are multiple steps that we undergo when we care for our students. Primarily, or initially, students are identified by staff members, and as coordinators, we will receive a notification through our wellbeing manager system. Parents also alert us to a variety of problems that we might address, and students often also self-report. They do this through multiple ways. It could be through their stride teacher, through their head of year, their subject teachers, or through an individual student survey that we run twice a term called CARES. Students are then referred to an appropriate staff member for assistance. It's not just the first person who comes along. We really do think quite carefully about who can best assist them. They're counselled by that member of staff that is best to address their needs. And then a personalised plan is tailored towards the student's needs, and that's enacted. The final step of the process is where we feed back to parents and other relevant parties. So that might be teachers, that might be other staff at school. Most critically, monitoring does not stop. So the process is quite cyclical in that it's ongoing. We do try and get feedback as regularly as we can, and we make sure that we are continually caring for the student and monitoring them, supporting them to make sure their needs are always met. Like Duncan mentioned, we do work with an incredibly supportive team, and where we feel that we need to get expert assistance, we pass them on, our students, to people who can better support them in different ways. So I think now we will move on, and we have a fabulous nursing team. I'd like to introduce you to Dependency, please.
Hi, hello. It's really good to be part of this fantastic team here at AIS. And I think when you look at the team that we do have in place, there's 11 sort of full-time nursing staff. AIS has made an incredible commitment towards health and see real value in a partnership between health and education. So we've got a large team with lots of specialisms that include things like public health, child health, respiratory, medical, surgical, anaesthetics, midwifery, palliative care, teaching, accident and emergency. So there's an awful lot of specialisms that we can draw on for expertise across our team. We kind of look at safeguarding in a much broader context in that we are safeguarding health. And so what that means in terms of supporting our students in school is basically working in partnership with parents in supporting our students in managing chronic health conditions in school, or sometimes transient health issues that they need sort of support with. What we really believe as a policy and as an ethos amongst the team really is to have that equitable access to healthcare so that children are able to access the curriculum equally. There's lots of other experiences offered by the school that we're very happy as well to support with, things like the international camps, functions that happen within school. So where emergency action or medical care plans are required, we're trying to do this in partnership at all times with parents so that we have your perspective about what are the health issues that you feel your child needs and the support that you need us to give them. We see in excess of about 200 students per week. We're managing small accidents, cuts and scrapes, up to sort of larger ones that may sort of need hospital intervention. We also manage things like infectious illness, we implement infection control measures, and we monitor sickness across the campus to ensure that all our children are safe. The nursing culture of care at AIS is that we do provide a listening ear to our students, but we do support students in as much as we try to encourage them to seek the help of experts, our counselling team, for any additional sort of support they may need. We've got quite a large role to play in safeguarding, and we do provide a comprehensive health education programme as well that's tailored to the needs of our students. So part of our job in terms of safeguarding health is communicating with parents. We work quite extensively within health and safety, looking at accidents and incidents as they happen on campus to try to make our campus a safer place for everybody. We deliver first aid and nursing care, and we have been very heavily involved in the COVID safe measurements to keep the campus sort of free of infection. We're here for a medical referral and advice if you need that. And we also provide health promotion and education across the student body. One of the things that we do here at AIS, which is quite unique amongst the international schools, is screening at key stages for vision and hearing, because we believe this promotes health as well as academic achievement and also ensures sort of social well-being. Prompt referral, follow-up and corrective measures to address visual or hearing deficits allow students to fully engage in the classroom as well as with their peers. And the early identification and collaboration with educators also helps in the classroom to ensure that they're having sort of the optimum experience in the classroom. We also support our boarding facility. We have a dedicated nurse, which is Michelle. She's a Mandarin speaking nurse. So she does the monthly visits to our boarding, does health education with them. And she's there to sort of listen to any kind of health concerns any of our boarders may have. And then lastly, our health education programme for our seniors is pretty extensive. It's not kind of set in stone. We do tend to respond to need as it arises, but I've just put on there a little bit of a taster of the kind of subjects that we have been covering between year 6 and year 12, as well as a lot of sort of CPR, AED, first aid, hygiene talks before camps when they happen again, and anything ad hoc that may sort of crop up in between times that students need support with. Okay, that's our role. I'd like to hand you over, if I can now, to Supriya, one of our counsellors. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Deb. I'm Supriya, one of the secondary school counsellors, and I would now like all of you to lie down and close your eyes and prepare for your group counselling session. Just joking. I'm going to be talking about the role of school counsellors and the processes of counselling here at AIS. As we all know, we are all capable of helping each other come to grips with problems of everyday life. And all of us have, at some point or the other in our lives, been in that situation where we have supported family and friends as they navigate the bumps in the road in their day-to-day lives. It's this very same process that is formalized through helping professions like mental health counselling. Coming to school counselling here at AIS, all school counsellors are qualified mental health professionals that work to support socio-emotional and academic development of all our students. We coordinate with all stakeholders, parents, families, school staff, community support agencies to help all our children and young people achieve their best potential. Our work is informed by ethics and guidelines provided by international associations like the International School Counselling Association, the Australian Counselling Association, as well as Australia and New Zealand Creative Arts Therapies Association. In Singapore, we are all part of the SISCN, which is the Singapore International School Counselling Network, through which we meet school counsellors from other international schools once a quarter to discuss patterns and trends that emerge in the international school setting. The school provides for clinical supervision, which ensures accountability and best practice, and we also engage in peer supervision with counselors from other international schools. Next, I'd like to talk a little bit about what school counselors do here at AIS. Our primary role is to offer school counseling support through individual sessions for students, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail over my next couple of slides. We also occasionally offer small group counseling or mediation sessions. For example, in situations where there are friendship group difficulties which are affecting several students. We work closely with our well-being coordinators, heads of years, and teachers in situations like these. There are also instances where we work with the whole family when that is considered essential to the well-being of the student in a given situation. Other than counseling, we also engage with our students through interactive information sessions customized for different year groups. Recently, we ran a Culture of Care presentation for the year 8s and an Upstander presentation for the year 11s. And we work closely with the whole well-being team to identify and respond to socio-emotional needs of the students as they continue to evolve during the year. Counselors also introduce themselves to new students and provide support to students who are leaving through transition sessions for students and families. Our newest members of the AIS community are the boarding house students, and we arrange check-ins with our boarders as well as psychoeducational sessions similar to the year group sessions just mentioned, which are tailored to the boarding house environment and needs. Counselors also work to raise awareness of mental health issues throughout the year through contributions to the Strive programs around significant days like Mental Health Awareness Day to spark and continue conversations among the students about the importance of looking after their mental health. We recognize our scope and signpost to community resources by recommending external psych support when the situation is best suited for it. Next, I thought I might give you a quick glimpse of our counseling offices here at AIS. Our rooms are private, really cozy, welcoming and comfortable, and our students find them a relaxing place. Moving on to the heart of the matter, I invite you to consider this question. Why does a student seek counseling support? On this slide, you can see, I think it's called a QR code. You scan this QR code and we will record the answers that you type in to the question, and we can all view it together. So if you could just scan this code and type in your answers to the question, why do students seek, or why are they sent to seek counseling support in the first place? Thank you. All right, I can see a few answers appearing there. The student is unhappy, if they need emotional help. As you continue to type in your answers, I might just go ahead a little bit. So most students are referred to counseling because in their own eyes or in the eyes of others, they are in a difficult situation that they are not handling well, or they have little or no control over. This situation is often causing emotional distress and has no clear-cut solutions. Examples include academic pressure, assignments, assessments, managing workload, also friendship difficulties, falling out with friendship group, family stressors, parents separating, health issues, grief and loss, to name a few. And my colleague Tess will address this in detail in her slides. And the other category is those students who feel that they are not living as fully as they might like to. In this case, it's not so much a matter of what's wrong as what can be better. And there is often a mixture of both. So problem situations and unused opportunities, these often constitute the starting point of the counseling process. So what are the goals of counseling then? The most common goals of counseling include helping to enhance the ability to cope and effectiveness in a given situation, facilitating behavioral change, helping to establish and maintain relationships at school and outside, helping with the decision-making process while facilitating the student's inherent potential. At AIS, goals are always student-led. We encourage students to reflect on what they want out of the counseling or therapeutic process and why this is important to them. We reflect together on what they believe is inhibiting them from achieving this. We always explore plan B. What are some other ways that they can move forward, and what are the pros and cons of each of these options? And then we think about what's next. How can they plan ahead and come up with some strategies ahead of time? Between the three of us here in the secondary school, we have a range of therapeutic approaches which allows us to cater to the unique needs of each student. While I dare say it might be interesting for us to chat about all of these, in the interest of time, I'm just presenting a quick overview here. Person-centered therapy underpins all our work and guides our other approaches. The principal tenet of person-centered therapy is to recognize and trust human potential and provide empathy and unconditional positive regard during the therapeutic processes to facilitate change. Solution-focused brief therapy, or SFBT, works especially well in school counseling and is grounded in the belief that individuals already have the skills to create change in their lives and just need a little bit of help in identifying and developing those skills. SFBT recognizes that people already know on some level what change is needed in their lives, and SFBT practitioners work to help the people in their care clarify their goals. Oops, sorry. Coming to psychodynamic therapy, psychodynamic therapy helps to is usually used in more in-depth work. The basic assumption is that behaviors and feelings, including psychological problems, are powerfully affected by unconscious motives and childhood experiences. This type of therapy, as I said, is more suited to in-depth work and is more appropriate in situations of family conflict, perhaps parents separating, illness, or loss in the family. Then comes CBT, which, like SFBT, is well suited to school counseling. Which is well suited to school counseling. In CBT, the basic premise is that, sorry about that, just a bit of a technical glitch there with my slides. In CBT, the core principle of CBT is that psychological problems are based on faulty or unhelpful ways of thinking or learned patterns of unhelpful behavior. CBT treatment usually involves efforts to change thinking patterns. Last but not the least, I'm also an art therapist and incorporate elements of art into my school counseling practice. Therapeutic art can allow children and young people to express their feelings and reflect on their experiences. Significant themes often emerge spontaneously in art therapy, and displacement into art can allow for safe processing of emotional content. There are some myths about art therapy that I would like to take this opportunity to address. Myth 1, artistic types are best suited to creative arts therapies. Well, art therapies do not rely on artistic knowledge or ability. They work by accessing imagination and creativity, qualities which everyone possesses and can access with some effort and practice. Myth 2, creative arts therapies are without scientific basis. Plenty of evidence-based and practice-based research is well established in today's date in all the creative arts therapies. And myth 3, which I think is the most popular one, is that the therapist interprets the work in an art therapist session. Asking people to reflect on their own creative work is an important part of the art therapy process, because we understand that each individual brings their own personal experiences to their creative process. I hope that helps to clarify a little bit of the processes that we follow in our school counseling function here at AIS. This is a self-explanatory slide, but in a nutshell, counseling has an impact on affect or mood, behavior, as well as thought. These are the mechanisms of counseling, or the ABCs as we call them. My final slide, it's about confidentiality. Before I end, I would like to share the importance of confidentiality to the school counseling function. In our roles as counselors, we often become privy to details about a student's life and their family that they may wish to keep private or that are not commonly known. Confidentiality is an integral part of the counseling professional code of conduct and ethics, and we obtain informed consent from students and or parents, as the case may be, by outlining the nature and scope as well as the limits of confidentiality. The only circumstances in which a counselor may disclose private information without consent would be to protect their client or someone else from serious harm. Also, as counselors practicing within the school system, sometimes we might share some parts of the information with our colleagues, other school staff, on a need-to-know basis with the students' well-being in mind. I hope this overview of the counseling function has been informative, and I will now hand over to my colleague Tessa to share some data and trends. Over to you, Tess.
Thank you, Supriya. Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Tessa, the newest member of the Wellbeing team at AIS. Prior to AIS, I was with the Singapore's Ministry of Social and Family Development, Child Protective Service. I've been here since February 2021 and have been enjoying my new role in the school setting. I'll be presenting to you the counselling data for 2021 thus far. For the total referrals between January to mid-March 2021 has seen a 67.92% increase from the previous year. While we can't be 100% sure, it is possible that students are still feeling the stress and anxiety from effects of COVID-19, such as not being able to travel back home to see friends and family. Self-referrals from students make up 34.4% of the referrals to counselling, followed by parents, who make up 23.6% of the referrals, and head of years and teachers at 22.3%. Here at AIS, we take pride in building a safe environment for students to reach out for help. It is also heartening to see parents reaching out for help, and we continue to look forward to working with all of you. Do continue to reach out to the counsellors should you have any concerns regarding the emotional or psychological well-being of your children. Research has shown that traditionally, more females than males have sought counselling, and this is in itself not a surprise. The concept of talking about feelings and exploring emotional and psychological difficulties has for many years been seen as a female rather than a male trait. This has been embedded in gender socialization and how females and males consider and evaluate themselves. However, things are beginning to change with more males seeking counselling and seeing it as both a positive and relevant source of help. Here at AIS, while there are 20.8% more females than males accessing counselling this year, we have seen a 55.81% increase in males accessing counselling from 2020. Based on the trends, 30.1% of students accessing counselling are experiencing anxiety and stress. This could be attributed due to the effects of COVID-19, such as having to socialize in smaller social groups and the impact of COVID-19 on the expat community, such as friends and family moving back home to their country. Additionally, for the year 6, moving from elementary to secondary school can be a rather stressful experience. Students go from being the most senior in school to being the newbies again. They have to cope with more intense academic pressures in an entirely new environment, while surrounded by new faces. Further complicating matters, students are also going through puberty at this stage, which might make them more emotional. The biological changes coupled with the stress of being in the entirely new environment can make one more self-conscious and anxious. Parents too are in a transitory period as they learn to loosen their grip on their growing child. On the other hand, seniors are worried about being able to graduate. They're worried about being able to qualify and be fully prepared for college admissions. During this COVID-19 pandemic, they are aware that many colleges and universities have shut down and wonder how this will affect their own future plans. The second biggest referral is for transition at 12.8%. Research has shown that children can feel isolated because they are grieving their old culture, including friends, family, and the language they left behind. As such, an international transition may require additional counselling to help integrate them into the local community and to work on the feelings associated with a big move. Most prevalent issues for the year groups can be related to the different stages of child and adolescent development. For example, for years 6 to 8, where peer relationships are important, this would be the most prevalent issue as compared to years 9 and 12, where children start to explore their identity and are conscious about their body image, among other things. Additionally, during the Singapore International Schools Counselling Network meeting in March 2021, it was noted that the trends were universal across the board, and other international schools were also facing the same presenting concerns. Now, I'll hand you over to Ms. Justin, Senior School Counsellor, to bring you through the AIS safeguarding landscape. Thank you.
Okay, hello, my name is Justine Gardner. I'm one of the 3 school counsellors here, and I'm also a designated safeguarding lead, one of 4 who work within AIS. So I would just like to talk to you a little bit about some of the safeguarding actions that we perform in school. So just looking at the slide there, this really gives a quite a brief definition of what safeguarding is. It refers to any actions that we take to promote the welfare of children, protect them from harm, and reduce the risks of any harm. So we often hear safeguarding mentioned alongside child protection. And what distinguishes safeguarding from child protection is that safeguarding is all the underlying things that we put in place to make sure children aren't at risk, whereas child protection processes refer more to the actions we take to protect the child following a disclosure or a suspicion of abuse. So over the next couple of minutes, I'm going to take you through some examples of the safeguarding actions AIS currently implement to protect your children from harm and to keep them happy, healthy and safe. There certainly isn't time for all of these, so I'm just going to take you through a few examples. I'm also not going to bore you with policy here, but if you would like to find out further information about our safeguarding policies and processes and information on that for parents, then you can check out the link on the slide that you can see now. Okay, so one of the foundational aspects of keeping your children safe is to ensure that the people who work here are here for the right reasons and that they've been thoroughly checked. So we engage in various safeguarding measures to ensure that. And the safeguarding measures that you see on the slide on the screen now apply to every adult who may come into contact with students. So these are teaching, non-teaching, admin staff, volunteers, maintenance facilities, security workers, transport providers, and independent contractors. A really comprehensive background check is conducted for all staff for the previous 10 years in every country that the individual has worked or resided in. And these checks include a criminal background check, a civil litigation check, social media search, and a global database search check, which looks for data sets on violent crime, sex crime, crimes of dishonesty, and global law enforcement. On a personal level, having worked internationally for some time, the screening process here is the most comprehensive that I've ever seen, and I find it quite scary. This included a 10-year search of social media posts, and I found myself being really scared about what they might find, and then realised that I don't actually have or have ever used or posted on social media. This level of scrutiny has been implemented, with purpose. So it's been implemented with reference to global research findings from the International Task Force on Child Protection, and also includes the findings of a report from Towards Safer Organisations, which was conducted by the NSPCC in the UK. The Towards Safer Organisations report is very interesting in that it actually uses the perspectives of convicted sex offenders who have sought out positions of trust within organisations that have children and use their stories to inform organisational safeguarding for children. So the reports do find that the level of scrutiny that we engage in at AIS to be a highly effective deterrent to paedophiles who are seeking to work with children. So this is just an example of some of the things that we do. So another thing that we did recently was that after doing some training on peer-to-peer abuse and some things that might happen on school premises, I really wanted to see how students view the school environment through their eyes, because that they view it differently from staff. So student representatives from years 6 to 12 participated in focus groups to help us see the school environment and assess their feelings of safety. This information is going to help us to effectively deploy teachers on active duty during recess and lunch in the appropriate areas, and also to engage in some practical measures to increase students' sense of safety in school. A heartening outcome from this was that student representatives communicate that AIS actually does feel like a safe school. A few of the issues revealed were quite surprising. So one of them was that the canteen may not always feel comfortable for younger students, as there are a minority of older kids who may pull rank and cut the line. So that's really, helpful for us to know, because we can engage in a pretty simple, pragmatic response to that. Make sure there's a teacher on duty who's looking at the line, and make sure that our catering staff do not serve anybody who is seen cutting the line. We also managed, with the help of the students, to identify isolated areas in school, and also places for potential wrongdoing were identified quite readily on an anonymous basis. We also identified one particularly smelly bathroom, which was highlighted by all year groups, which was interesting. But fortunately, we also identified that the students can name multiple safe spaces. All students knew where to locate trusted adults quickly. Counselling and nursing areas were determined to be very safe spaces. And also that students feel far safer on physical school grounds than they do on social media. So that's what I'm going to come to next. What do we do about that? Okay, so with regard to social media and other places and forms of abuse that happen, we're very aware, and we check research to see how likely it is that young people report. And very sadly, it's rare, especially in terms of peer-on-peer abuse or bullying, that students will report this, with only around 20% reporting. So because of that, we're very aware that we need to be vigilant. We need to give students confidence that reporting will be responded to appropriately and sensitively. Students often won't tell parents about bullying either, because of the belief that will make the situation worse by overreacting. Research says that students don't tell teachers because they perceive they will do nothing or make things worse. So our response to this has been, we've looked at providing upstanders Strive sessions for years 9 and 11 so far, where we really talk to students about looking after themselves and looking after each other. We're very transparent about the fact that we can't be everywhere all the time, and we can't have eyes on them all the time. And that actually there is an awful lot that they can do to intervene non-confrontationally to help their peers, and also that they can report any harm that they see to help their peers. So the other thing that we're looking at is we're exploring a single reporting site, which could be used, so either one email address or one SMS number, or a combination of both. And especially to report online bullying. Online bullying tends to have a huge audience, and we would like to combine this new single reporting site with more education for our students on reporting when they see harm being done, and let them know how easy that is. It's a screenshot, it's sent to one of us, and then we can pick it up from there, and they no longer have to have any part of that. So barriers to reporting school or family any type of abuse can be feelings of embarrassment and shame. I suppose just imagine your greatest insecurity and not even just being mocked for it in school, but then having to share that with your teachers and other adults in your lives. Also a fear of retribution, and a fear that it will make things worse. Fear of being labelled a snitch, or whatever the vernacular is in your particular area of the world. And also a sense that there's a lack of availability or accessibility in private to talk to adults who can help. Going back to the figures that Tess shares, we're very proud of the fact that we have such a huge number of students who self-refer to counsellors, who are able to identify that they have a difficulty and feel confident and comfortable in seeking out their own help. There are many ways that you can respond as a parent to make it as optimal as possible for your children to be able to talk to you if they're experiencing abuse. And one of those is not to be emotive, to remain calm, non-reactive in your manner, reassure that your child that, you know, that they haven't done anything wrong, praise them for the courage in speaking with you about it, and ask your child what they want you to do, what's going to be helpful, what's going to be their worst nightmare. Give them some control over the situation and what happens next. I'd like to really assure you that as a school, we do make every effort to deal with instances of bullying in a very sensitive manner, and the victim of bullying is always our primary focus in terms of their care and their well-being. If you'd like any more information about that, then again, if you check our website, you can find the bullying policy on there. Okay, so now look at the safeguarding curriculum. Now, a lot of safeguarding in schools has been around training staff to identify how to deal with reports, how to deal with disclosures. And what we have implemented over the last couple of years is a safeguarding curriculum called Child Help Speak Up, Be Safe. And this is really important so that we can help students to learn to recognise what constitute abusive behaviours. For example, something like grooming online. We can help them to identify unsafe situations and who to turn to for help and how to report. Young people, and especially the young people here in Singapore, who I think are very, very respectful, very polite, quite deferential to adults. It can be very difficult for them, even when their instinct tells them that something's wrong. They're overwhelmed by a need to remain respectful, not to cause a fuss, not to shout and kick and scream. So they may actually remain in an unsafe situation when they don't have to, because of that overriding. So we teach children to listen to their instincts, and we teach them strategies in terms of how to deal with situations where they feel unsafe. And that's what we call the resist strategies, and you can see that on the slide there. It might be run, it might be escape, it might be scream, ignore, stay away, and tell somebody. Okay, perpetrators of child abuse like to remain invisible. They like to stay under the radar. They don't want somebody to shout and call attention to them. And we know that a child's ability to shout, to scream, to seek appropriate adult help immediately can be very effective. So when we do these sessions, you will be informed by parents of the content of the sessions that they will be doing and the discussions we'll be having. It will enable you to carry on the discussions with your children at home, which is really important. Teachers who deliver these sessions are also trained in learning how to deal with disclosures. We have a very careful safety agreement around these lessons because we are aware that they might provide triggers for some children who may have experienced something in the past. And that's also the reason why we train our teachers in managing sensitively any disclosures which result from the sessions that we deliver. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. That's safeguarding. We have just started to build a website, Secondary School Wellbeing Team site. So within that, you will get information from the nurses, from the counsellors, from the wellbeing coordinators, and just with regard to wellbeing initiatives in school generally. Like I say, it's a work in progress, so bear with us, but things are being added as we speak. Okay, so just finally, it's great to see you've been posting questions on the chat. We do have 10 minutes left. If there are any more questions, please feel free to type them into the chat now. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
I just want to say thank you very much to parents for making the time this evening to join us for our Culture of Care presentation. We know that the relationship between us, the kids, and parents as well is pivotal in our success in triangulating that support network for them. So taking the time out to learn about what we're doing at school, to be on the same page and speak the same vocabulary is incredibly important in moving forward with our kids. Secondly, I'd like to thank our incredible wellbeing team, but in particular our presenters that we have here tonight, so our guidance counsellors, wellbeing coordinators, and Deb on behalf of the nursing team. Incredible operators and brilliant at what they're doing. As I said earlier, I'm incredibly lucky to work with such amazing people. Please continue to keep an eye on any of the information coming from school from the wellbeing team in regards to some further content that'll be coming out, most likely early in term 2. Again, thank you very much for your time this evening, and I wish you a pleasant evening.